Hey, Liberty Elementary kindergartners and families and anybody else watching this. Welcome to our bedtime story. We are going to be reading If You Give a Moose a Muffin today. This is a really fun story. Our author is Laura Joff Numeroff and our illustrator is Felicia Bond. So our author writes the words and our illustrator draws the pictures. Front cover, back cover, spine. Remember that spine holds all of the pages together, just like your spine. Hold your ribs and your body together. So we're going to be reading If You Give a Moose a Muffin. And at the end, we're going to ask a couple of comprehension questions. All right, here is our title page. If you give a moose a muffin. So we see a little boy throwing a little muffin to this moose. He'll want some jam to go with it. That makes sense, and that's making me hungry and making me want a muffin right now. So you'll bring out some of your mother's homemade blackberry jam. Ooh, I wonder what is your favorite kind of jam? Blackberry jam sounds pretty delicious. When he's finished eating the muffin, he'll want another, and another, and another. When they're all gone, he'll ask you to make more. You'll have to go to the store to get some muffin mix. He'll want to go with you. When he opens the door and feels how chilly it is, he'll ask to borrow a sweater. Ooh, so one of the questions at the end is, what do you think the setting of this story is? So remember, the setting is where and when the story takes place. So this page is giving us a clue for the weather in this story. I'll read it again. When he opens the door and feels how chilly it is, he'll ask to borrow a sweater. Also, look at the color of those leaves flying around. When he puts the sweater on, he'll notice one of the buttons is loose. He'll ask for a needle and thread. He'll start sewing. The button will remind him of the puppets his grandmother used to make. Do you think this story is fiction or nonfiction? Nonfiction means that it's a true story. Fiction means that it's a pretend funny story. I think this one is a fiction story because I'm not sure if mooses can make puppets. So he'll ask for some old socks. He'll make sock puppets. Well, that sounds like a fun idea. If you have an old sock laying around, maybe you can pretend it's a sock puppet. When they're done, he'll want to put on a puppet show. So he made a little moose and a little mouse sock puppet. He'll need some cardboard and paints. Then he'll ask you to help make the scenery. So scenery is like what goes behind, kind of like a setting, but normally there's like scenery in a play or something. So you'll see on this next page, here's the scenery that he made. He drew kind of an outdoor scene with some boats, and there's some monsters fighting, and there's some spaceships and a castle. He drew a really creative scene. When the scenery is finished, he'll get behind the couch, but his antlers will stick out. So he'll ask for something to cover them up. You'll bring him a sheet from your bed. All right, how do you think the little boy is feeling on this page? Okay, where's our word how? Here's our word how, H-O-W. How do you think he's feeling? I'm thinking he's starting to feel a little bit sleepy. This has been a long day. When he sees the sheet, he'll remember he wants to be a ghost for Halloween. He'll try it on and shout, "Boo!" It'll scare him so much, he'll knock over the paints. So he'll use the sheet to clean up the mess. Then he'll ask for some soap to wash it out. So at least he's very helpful and he's cleaning up his mess, right? He'll probably want to hang the sheet up to dry. he'll go outside to put it on the clothesline. When he's out in the yard, he'll see your mother's blackberry bushes. Seeing the blackberries will remind him of her jam. He'll probably ask you for some. What do you think is going to happen if he wants blackberry jam? What do you think he's going to need next? And chances are, if you give him the jam, what do you think he's going to want? He'll want a muffin to go with it. All right, so the first question I have is, what is the setting of this story? So again, the setting is where and when the story takes place. And you can have more than one setting in a story because the characters can move around and change. So the setting of this story was mostly inside the house, but they also went outside a couple of times. And when I saw on this page that he said it was a little bit chilly, I thought, ooh, the chilliest seasons are normally fall and winter. But then I could narrow it down even more by looking at the illustration and seeing some of these different color leaves. And I know that the leaves change color in fall. So I bet that this season is fall. So looking at the illustrations can really help us to learn new things about the book because we don't always see it or hear it in the words. So the words never said it was a fall day, right? We didn't know that. We looked at the picture and we were able to find out some more information. So always take some time, look at the pictures in a book and read the words and see if you can figure out anything new that maybe wasn't in the text. Who are the characters in this story? So remember, the characters are the people, animals, or creatures in the story. So again, the characters are the people, the animals, or the creatures in the story. In this story, our main character, the one who the story's about, was the moose, right? The moose and the little boy. And then there was also the mom. She didn't have any talking parts in the story, but she was in several of the illustrations, right? And her blackberry jam was referenced a lot. What happened in the beginning of the story? The beginning is what happens first. So we can always look back in the book and go to the beginning and see that in the very beginning of the story, the little boy gave the moose a muffin. Then what happens at the end? The end is what happens last. So if we don't remember, we can always go to the end and we see a big old mess in the house, but also the moose and the little boy are eating, well, the moose is wanting a muffin again, right? But did they ever make it to that store to get more muffin mix? Nope, they kept getting distracted, right? When somebody asks you what happens in the middle of the story, think of the important details that happen in the middle. You don't need to say every single page what happened, but think about some of the things that happened in the middle. So you might say, oh, he decided he wanted to make some sock puppets. You might say, oh, he made a mess, so he had to wash that sheet and hang it outside on the clothesline. You might say he saw the blackberry bushes and it reminded him of the jam. Those are all things that happened in the middle of the story. So you can practice beginning, middle, and end really with anything. You can talk about what happened at the beginning of your day, what happened in the middle, and what happened at the end. If you're watching a TV show or a movie, you can do the same thing. What happened in the beginning, the middle, and the end. And you can also talk about the characters and the setting. So I hope you guys enjoyed this reading of If You Give a Moose a Muffin. Shout out to Sana who requested this book. And I look forward to seeing everybody later. Have a great night.